am a fraud. I have somehow conned my way through the back door into the tech industry. I don't have a computer science degree. I don't know how to code. And here I am in 2011, the first woman hired in IT in the 30 years of existence of this tech company. Let me back up. It's 2011 and I moved to Australia following a guy I met while studying abroad. Spoiler alert, becomes my husband later. And I move over with no money, no friends, and definitely no job opportunities. So I apply for any and all jobs out in the market. The first company that calls me back, actually the only people that call me back, is a temp agency to see if I want to be a receptionist for one day. Now, at the time, I was living in a black hole of cell reception, so I precariously put my phone on the windowsill just to get any kind of phone calls. I got this call in the morning, and I felt like I had won the lottery. I was going to be employed for one day. So my boyfriend jumped out of bed, started ironing my clothes, and I took a shower. I showed up at this company as one of 4 receptionists. That's how big this tech company was. And I realized I was being called in because they were rolling out Google Apps. Yes, Gmail, Google Drive, and Google Docs. That's all there was then. And they had hired a consultancy to do some professional training. I had just been using Google Apps in college for the previous year, and I didn't need any training, so I turned to the other 3 receptionists and I taught them how to use shared calendars and how to book a room. And while I was doing this, a consultant ended up walking by and realized that I've been sharing some tips and tricks. That was the first time I encountered a sponsor. A sponsor is somebody who advocates for you when you're not in the room. This person ended up going to the IT manager and said, you're going to need ongoing training. So why don't you hire this woman as a change manager just for 6 months? Give her a go, as the Australians say. So all of a sudden, I found myself in IT. In those 6 months, though, I taught myself Camtasia, a video editing tool. I ran webinars every week. I wrote FAQs and published blog posts on new tips and tricks. And I also was invited behind the big wall that separated the CEO's office from every other employee. I showed up to that wall and I thought, what am I doing? How am I going to teach a CEO anything? I walk behind that wall and I sit shoulder to shoulder to this market well-known, very intimidating CEO and taught him how to use Gmail. My great work there ended up referring me into another job where this company was rolling out a product called Salesforce. As mentioned before, it's the 6th biggest software company in the world, and I had no idea what it was. It's a CRM software, well, no software in the cloud, but I didn't know what a CRM was either, a contact relationship management tool. I told this person in the interview, I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't know what this is, but what I can tell you is my first year out of college, I had 6 jobs. I taught myself Camtasia. I helped my newspaper back in Monterey roll out Google Apps. If I want something, I will figure it out. Promise you, I will work hard and I can learn quickly. And he said, okay, let's try it out. That was Friday morning over breakfast. And by Monday, I was flying down to Sydney for a training program to become a system admin of Salesforce. I ended up rolling out Salesforce for this company with the help of my IT manager. And the thing was, I ended up progressing in that company to become the manager myself. But I had my sights set on something bigger, the world. So I then moved into consulting, and over the next 4 years, I ended up implementing successful projects across the world in Hong Kong, in New York, in Australia. I felt like the luckiest person in the world. Luck certainly had something to do with it. I was there at the right place at the right time, at the right reception desk. But But luck was not the only ingredient for success. You know, I had my sponsors, and I also had my work that really spoke to what I was capable of. Yet I had not really found my own voice yet, until I was forced to. Jamila Rizvi writes in her book, Not Just Lucky, that women in the workplace are expected to be polite, and our best asset is to be likable. But if we advocate for ourselves, sometimes we may be seen as pushy or aggressive, or worst of all, ambitious. But I was in a different world. We needed to advocate for ourselves. I was on a project, a really big project, and I was leading a big portion of the implementation. And a male colleague of mine ended up writing up a success story about this project, neglecting to mention a couple of people's names, including yours truly. And I thought, man, I am gypped. What? I thought my work would speak for itself. Unfortunately, I saw this male colleague of mine get promoted twice in the time period that I was promoted 0 times. And I said, man, that's never gonna happen again. I have got to be my own advocate. I have to voice how great my work is. And I got that opportunity. I was actually invited to apply for a role at the mothership, Salesforce itself, as a solution engineer, my dream job. This is a technical resource, a very vital expert in the whole sales process. I had 8 interviews and was flown down to Sydney for a panel presentation. And by the time I flew back to Brisbane, I landed on the tarmac and I got that phone call from recruitment. I got the job. Oh my God, this was amazing. I could not believe it. I showed up at the building in Sydney, the Salesforce building, and again, that voice in my head, I am a fraud. They're going to find me out. I had 6 certifications. I had implemented successful projects all across the world, and yet still, I didn't know how successful I could be. I didn't know how much I needed to believe in myself. I was shadowing a colleague of mine after a presentation, and I was telling him about this imposter syndrome I was really dealing with. And he said, you know, you do actually have something that a lot of us don't. You've been a customer. You've implemented projects. You've led them from end to end. You know, and all of that without a tech background. You taught that yourself. You learned that yourself. And so I thought, you know what? Maybe I should share this story a bit. You know, if this does help a receptionist somewhere else or somebody in another position that thinks, you know, the possibilities are limited, then my story is worth sharing. So I wrote a blog post on LinkedIn, and that blog post got pretty popular. It actually caught the eye of a vice president of Asia Pacific. And he ended up sending this article to the co-founders of Salesforce, Mark Benioff and Parker Harris. And one of them wrote back. Parker Harris emailed me saying, "Hi, Jordana, it's so great to hear your story. If you're ever in San Francisco, let me know." I ended up getting invited in the green room behind stage at our biggest conference of the year, Dreamforce. 180,000 people, pre-COVID, would come to San Francisco, and this presenter, Parker Harris, the co-founder, was presenting at one of the keynotes. And I got to ask him, what do you see in good leadership? And how can I strive to be a leader in my own right? And what I ended up walking away with was how humble and how approachable a leader really can be. Now, I am eternally grateful for my sponsors, for my work, and for finding my own voice. But now I am a senior manager myself. My view on diversity actually evolved through my career. Before I became a manager, we were all obsessed with this book by Sheryl Sandberg, Lean In. She talks about women having a seat at the table. And it somehow got ingrained in our heads that there was only one seat of diversity at the table, 1 seat for a woman. And unfortunately, it ended up feeling like all of us were vying for that 1 seat, and it was very competitive. It was so competitive that I ended up having to take time off work. And like a true millennial, I ended up going to a yoga retreat. I took a step back and I thought, it's not about the table. It's not about the seat. It's actually about the voices in the room. Who are we listening to? Who are we turning to for advice? Now that I am a leader, I am so privileged and honored to be able to lead this team and pave the way for leaders to come. Not only do I get to be a sponsor or a voice in the room for others, but I also get to invite those other perspectives and voices in the room as well. More recently, I had an employee in my team get invited to lead one of the biggest deals that we had all year. I knew that she had all the experience and really capable to lead this. Behind the scenes, we were strategizing. I was her coach and confidant. But at the end of the day, she owned her own voice in the room. A team of 20 plus people were turning to her saying, what should we do next? And I loved it when our executives would turn not to me as a leader or not our VP, but to her and say, what do you think we should do next? That for me is giving me chills just thinking about it. That is a successful leadership role that I can play. I can open the door of opportunity for them. So yes, I am absolutely, it's table stakes to be a sponsor and advocate for those people who are talented. But I now strive as a leader to not only be in the room, but to pull out a chair for the voices who don't even know they need to be heard. Thank you.